Item C, receive report regarding outreach conducted for implementation of the Sustainable Food Packaging Ordinance effective April 1st, 2010.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure again to be before you tonight to discuss the polystyrene ban that will be effective on April 1, 2010, also known as the Sustainability Food Packaging Ordinance. A review of what the ordinance includes and requires. It was adopted back in February of last year. It prohibits the use of polystyrene as a component of any food service ware products that is disposable. So things like utensils, straws, lids, cups, plates, any kind of containers. Those have to be either reusable, recyclable, biodegradable, or compostable. And it's a very similar ordinance that is in effect in Millbrae, in South San Francisco, and in Pacifica, our nearest neighbors, as well as some other agencies in the Bay Area. It applies to all establishments that serve food on premise or serve food to go, and it also includes all city facilities and city events as well. Consistent with prior City Council direction when we adopted the ordinance, we wanted to provide a significant amount of outreach to the impacted businesses and establishments that will have to comply with the ordinance to make sure that there was full understanding about what alternatives are needed, when they're needed by, and any additional help. So we did 3 mailings since the adoption of the ordinance. One of those mailings was trilingual in English, Spanish, and Chinese. We also engaged a contractor to assist with business outreach, contractor that is very familiar with outreaching directly to businesses on environmental issues. They conducted personal site visits to impacted establishments and made follow-up phone calls where necessary to help walk through some particular concerns with individual establishments or with perhaps a supplier or corporate supply chain if that establishment was a franchisee. They also did some research into the availability and pricing of alternative products. The products certainly are widely available. The cost differential still exists as a few more cents per item, so that is still a factor. We also held additional meeting with food vendors just last week, as we had intended to, and I'll report about that in a moment. From the outreach conducted prior to the meeting, the reaction was generally positive. Most folks knew the ordinance prior to the visit actually happening. The responses ranged from, great, this is where we should be going, we should have done it a long time ago, to, well, this is the way the industry is going, and so we're happy to move in that direction. So really sort of ranged the gamut, but we had very little negative response, and so we find that very, very positive. We have approximately 35 of the approximately 130 establishments in San Bruno are already compliant. Many of the others are using their existing product and fully plan to comply by April 1st. The city worked with several establishments, like we said, to identify issues with supply chains. So the most tricky issues are typically with franchise operations where they have a dedicated supply chain, and so that corporate partner has to know sort of what the ordinance entails, what products qualify, what substitutes can be used. So we've really worked through a number of those issues with the businesses directly, and some of that work is ongoing as we continue. With the food vendors we had on Thursday, we had 3 come. We had a representative from Artichoke Joe's, Don Pico's, and the Togos. Generally, they are able to find the appropriate alternatives. They're a little more costly than the polystyrene, the normal polystyrene products. The lids for hot liquids are a little challenging. So for example, lids for coffee cups, it's hard to find a good biodegradable substitute that holds up under hot coffee and holds the actual top of the cup well. That has been an item that has been exempt for mostly all the ordinances that I know because there's no suitable alternative yet. And the ordinance we have does provide the city manager to approve an exemption where no feasible alternative does exist. So an example of that would very likely be the hot liquid lids. And then just to report out that Togo's was also having some issues with their corporate supplier, and so shortly after the meeting, we put them in touch with our contractor, and they've already been in discussion and trying to iron out those issues. Some proposed next steps. We do want to do one more round of mailing and site visits prior to April 1. One, to ensure that everyone is understanding of the ordinance and understanding is ready to comply, and two, to recognize those that had complied early. So those that are on board by March 1, we want to provide some special recognition for those that took the extra effort to get there before they had to get there. Ideas that have been discussed with the council subcommittee on sustainability. We had discussed a city council recognition, a certificate from the city or a small banner placed in the storefront window, as well as, of course, cable TV and website promotion. Staff will certainly endeavor to make that happen prior to March 1. And that's really the report as things stand so far. And Director and myself are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just quick clarification. This also includes the movable vendors, commonly known as taco trucks, right?
It does.
Okay. Any questions?
Through the chair.
Irene?
Thank you. One, doesn't Starbucks use recyclable or compostable lids for their coffees? Or is that?
I believe the hot lids, they use the typical polystyrene, the number 6 has it on the top. Starbucks has the ability to have all the rest of their components be biodegradable or compostable or recyclable.
Okay.
I think it's still the outstanding issue, the hot coffee lid.
Okay. I thought I had seen 5 on theirs, but I guess I'm mistaken.
That would be great if that's the case. I haven't heard that yet, but we'll check into that.
We'll check. So I just want to clarify, this also covers everything at the food court at Tan Fran, and it also covers places like 7-Eleven or any other places that do food. So that's
Correct.
Fantastic.
Correct.
And then what if somebody is not complying?
So
what do people do if they walk into anybody's?
So we certainly encourage if folks come to an establishment and they get something that's not recyclable or not biodegradable, clearly has a number 6 on it, which means it's polystyrene or it's the dead giveaway of the styrofoam containers. Let the city know. The Public Works Department will contact them to provide them information that they need to comply, and they need to make efforts immediately to start complying. If there is continued resistance, then there is ability in the ordinance to have a code enforcement action against that particular establishment. But we really anticipate pretty good compliance for this.
Okay, so 2 more clarifications. Who do people contact? Like Public Works or the city? Who? And then when you say code enforcement, tell people what that is, because I think people, especially the Boy Scouts that are here, need to know. Sure.
So I would encourage folks to call either Community Development Code Enforcement or Public Works Department for that first time. For the first notice of a violation, Public Works will be notified since we're the most familiar with the ordinance. We'll go out to the establishment, talk to really assess what the particular problem is. If that problem is not solved, then we bring in code enforcement. And what code enforcement does is enforce what are called nuisance violations, where there's an official warning. If no action is taken after the official warning, then there is a fine of $100. If no action is taken after the first $100 fine, then there's a $200, so on to $500. That will be the formal process that would happen if an establishment refuses to comply.
Okay, thank you.
Through the
Any
chair.
other questions? Vice Mayor?
Mine is very quick. Mr. Shannon, I just wanted to say that you put a lot of dedication and outreach into this process for a long period of time. And I think that it's not just been an assignment to you. I think it's something you believe in and you think it's good for the future and for the community, and I want to commend you for that, and thank you for your efforts.
Appreciate that.
Good. I would like to echo that, too. I'm on the Sustainable Committee with Councilwoman O'Connell, and it's been a lot of time and effort on your behalf and staff to make this happen. This is a very good thing for the city, and I'm glad we're right at the edge. Thank you. Speaker?
Robert Recall, 7th Avenue. Can you give us the 2 phone numbers tonight, and can those phone numbers be put on Channel 1 or whatever so that people readily have it? They don't have to figure out how to get it?
Yeah. I would call 650-616-7065. 610-616-7065. That's a Public Works number. That's the best way.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And I would
Anything
just, if I could take a moment, the three people sitting to the right of me certainly put a ton of effort into getting the ordinance right, narrowing it down. So definitely thank you to,
So did you get any, like, recyclable dishes to try, just to make sure? it was
oh, I've got a
okay?
box. Do you want one, son? I've got 2 boxes, actually, yeah. Let's go have a party.
All right. Any other questions?